Hey guys, today I want to make a video talking about, right, how nobody understands the villain. You know, I'm gonna talk about that today. So I'm gonna make this maybe 5 to 10 minutes long. So yeah, nobody understands the villain. I think about all the well, I don't think about it, but this is just an example, an example, um school shooters. Sorry if that's a bad example, but that's the first one I can think of. School shooters. What else? Just people in the world who commit crimes. Maybe people who steal, people who rob, maybe people. Um, I would go as far to say even people who are pedophiles. I know that's a fucked to say, but nobody understands them or nobody sympathizes with them. And you don't have to sympathize with them, but I'm saying to understand them. Like people who are school shooters and all of that. Um, or people who commit crime, like people who commit crimes. Nobody understands in the sense of they have a reason that they went through so much throughout their life that built up to that moment to them doing that. That person who shut up that school. I know uh this is what's that word called? Controversial to talk about, but this is the example. These are the best example I can think of. That person who shut up that school, right? He probably was bullied every day of his life. He probably went through hell at home every day of his life. He probably was beaten by his parents all the time throughout his life at home. He probably didn't have a good life at home. He probably wasn't treated good at school, and one day he just snapped. You know, one day that's it. He just snapped. He had enough. Maybe he had a family member who had a gun. He took the family member's gun and went to school. And before they went to school, they shot their parents, and then they shot they went into their classroom and then shut up all the people. Made sure to shoot first all the people who bullied them, all the people who talked shit about them, all the people who made them feel like crap. They shot them first, and then they shot everybody else, like as an example. You know, and I know that what they're people who do these things are fucked up, but nobody seems to understand what led them to do what led them to do these crimes. Nobody seems to understand that. You know, people who are pedophiles. I know it's another fucked up example because pedophiles get killed in jail or they get beaten badly in jail, but nobody understands them in the sense of they didn't choose to like kids, or they didn't. Maybe they just have trouble getting women their age, or people their age, so they go for people that are younger. So that's why they're pedophiles. I don't know, something like that. People who rob a store. They were having a hard time making money. They couldn't anymore, and they're like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna rob." They're gonna fuck it. I'm gonna rob the store. People that rob a bank. I even thought about you know doing something like that myself because it's just hard to live out here, and it's like if I could steal the content of a bank, I'd be living good for a good while without busting my ass. You know, um, they just like I said, people who do that, they got fed up of not being able to pay for stuff. Probably right. They got fed up of not being able to buy the stuff they want. They got fed up of you know um, not having a lot of money. People get fed up of stuff, right? And some people, I know that they get really fucked up in the head that they snap. They snap and they do these horrible things. You know, um, what's another example? People who bully other people. Maybe they're getting bullied at home, so that's why they bully other people. You know, um, I would go as far to say people who bully other people, they're insecure about something, and that's why they bully other people. You know, um, as well. You know, nobody understands the villain. You know, because when you think about it, this world gives you more reasons to be a villain than a hero. You know, and being a hero is harder than being a villain. I'm gonna say that probably. Yeah, for the most part, yeah, it is because there's more opportunities for you to do bad in the world than good because you know you're so tempted um a lot of times to I don't know, shout at a person or scream at a person or hit a person because they made you feel some type of way. You know, that's not me, but I'm giving an example. Of like some say that a person talk crap about you, like, man, I'm gonna fuck that person up when I get out of here. Stuff like that. Like you're constantly giving more opportunities to do bad and good. You know, but that's been this video. Yeah. Oh yeah, and I think people that are incels as well, I think people see them as villains because they don't have what they should have. So I guess that makes them villains. I guess some other people they see them as villains or I don't know, but yeah.